Super Mario Sunshine is the 2002 entry into the 3D Mario lineup and follows in the footsteps of the classic Super Mario 64. Now that it has been ported to the Switch in the 3D All-Star Collection, many new players will experience this game for the first time, and many longtime fans will revisit Delfino Island. I'm Morton's Castle, and in today's video we will be tackling this game from all angles, whether it be the core gameplay or those pesky blue coins. Before we dive in, I'd like to share my experience with the game. I owned the GameCube version as a kid, so it's nothing new to me. However, I never played it much, so it doesn't have the same nostalgia factor as Galaxy does, a game I played a whole lot of. In Mario Sunshine, you were tasked with cleaning Delfino Island, a tropical paradise that is now covered in pollution. Clearing this pollution brings us into our first review category. The gameplay is pretty unique when compared to other 3D Mario titles, as you have FLUDD at almost all times. FLUDD is a glorified water gun that gives you many special abilities, but before we can even get into that, you have Mario's main moves. You have the triple jump, backflip, and dive from Mario 64, but there is no long jump. However, you do have a spin jump, which is pretty incredible for gaining height. In no FLUDD levels, these are your main tools for getting around, and mastery of them will help you even when you have the hover nozzle. The hover nozzle is a jetpack which makes the game very forgiving if you are a new player, but even for experienced players there's a lot of crazy stuff you can do with it and lets you traverse the levels in a smooth, fun way. FLUDD's main purpose is the squirt nozzle, which allows you to clean up the pollution and goop scattered across Delfino Island. As the goop spawns enemies and can hurt you, this is usually to your benefit. FLUDD's mechanics are important for defeating bosses as well, so they're core to the gameplay. I'd say the movement is incredible. Something about the spin jump, backflip, and dive and hover nozzle is incredibly satisfying and make everything a joy to parkour through. We can't move on without mentioning Yoshi, everyone's favorite dinosaur. Yoshi is a bit weird in this game as he spits juice to match the FLUDD mechanic of spitting water, and these juices can make enemies turn into platforms. But the fact that Yoshi dies in water, and there's a lot of that in this game, is a bit of a downside. The camera in this game is incredible, and you'll rarely, if ever, have to blame a bad camera angle for a death, as it gives you a lot of control over it. As a 3D Mario game, Sunshine aligns itself more so into the open world and free roaming territory than linear gameplay. It's more so in the same vein as 64 and Odyssey and less like Galaxy and 3D World. I think this is a great thing. However, when it comes down to 3D Mario, I like both formats of game design. Sunshine is just particularly fun with open world levels, and I think much of that comes down to the tropical island setting. The game has a very clear and coherent vision of Delfino Island as this tropical island paradise, and each level contributes to that theme. From a sandy beach, to a rocky cove, to a hotel in front of the ocean. Everything makes this game feel like somewhere you'd go on a vacation. The centralized theme of level design is a plus, and the gameplay is fitted into the levels nicely. The hover nozzle movement makes moving around the levels smooth and effortless. Some of my favorite movement options provided by the levels will come down to Rico Harbor and Bianco Hills. Moving around is just fun, and exploring the levels is rewarding, which I will touch on later. There are also secret areas that provide the more linear gameplay style of Galaxy and 3D World, and these levels focus on platforming. These secret levels can be hard if you're new to the game or just playing through it casually, but they're honestly some of my favorite parts of it. You lose FLUDD, so your movement is entirely dependent on Mario's core moves, and you can get kind of creative with it. They're a worthwhile challenge as well. What isn't a worthwhile challenge is Corona Mountain, the game's final level which falls from the game's vision. It doesn't feel tropical like the other areas, and it's linear instead of free roaming. The level is a straight path through the volcano's obstacles, but unlike the secret levels, it lacks that fun and creative factor. Everything in the volcano is just an instant kill, and it's so jarringly different from the other main areas that it's a sour note to conclude your playthrough on. The bosses in Sunshine are nothing to write home about. They're very easy and simplistic in nature, and usually only revolve around one gameplay mechanic. For example, Goopy Piranha only requires knowledge of aiming the water spray, and Bowser only requires usage of the rocket nozzle's ground pound. In my opinion, good bosses are ones that make use of multiple gameplay mechanics at once. They don't have to be extremely complex, and at times, bosses that focus on one mechanic can be used by game designers to test the player's mastery of that mechanic. I think Galaxy does that very well. However, Sunshine doesn't, and it's mainly because of the many bosses are reused. You fight Gooper Blooper 3 times, and I personally think Gooper Blooper might be the best boss in the game, but because he's reused without really any changes, he gets lame. The repetition of Goopy Piranha is definitely the worst though, and while the core gameplay is great, the bosses in Sunshine aren't exactly exciting. I almost moved on without mentioning Shadow Mario, but I guess he technically classifies as a boss. For the 7th shine of each world, you have to chase him around the level, and I don't think it's particularly fun or engaging. The chases mainly rely on your spraying ability and your movement skills through a particular level, but Shadow Mario always seems to have a lot of health, or just randomly not take damage for whatever reason, and again, the repetition of this quote-unquote fight drags it down in quality. People rag on the blue coins quite often, and maybe why Sunshine isn't as beloved as other titles to some people. I can agree that a few blue coins are questionable, but I honestly like the majority of the coins. I previously talked about how good Sunshine's areas are, and how fun they can be to traverse and explore. Blue coins encourage that, and if you're collecting all of them, it means you're spending more time in each level. If you go from the starting point to the shine sprite, you're not doing that much, and you're spending no time in the game. But if you're exploring and collecting these collectibles, you're engaging with the game, and I found that the blue coins made me like the areas a lot more because I was playing in them more. That said, there are a few annoying ones in the game. They just make you question why they were put there, and Corona Mountains are just simply awful. But that whole area is awful in the first place. Sunshine is extremely glitchy, so I had to add this category onto the review. If you're looking for a polished game, this isn't the one for you. However, I'm one who likes glitches as long as they aren't detrimental to gameplay, and a lot of the glitches are ones that can actually benefit you. It's incredibly easy to clip out of bounds in Delfina Plaza, as well as in any other area of the game. I think out of bounds explorations adds a lot to a game, and why some older titles are great fun because you can do it yourself. While for more modern and polished games, we need boundary break to get these kinds of experiences. The cutscenes in Sunshine are unskippable, and that's a major problem as they're quite long. It's okay the first time you see it, but if you make another file, I've already played the game over the years, they're just lengthy and boring. Sunshine also features voice acting, which is funny at times, but strange at others. For the 3D AllStars part of this review, they should have definitely made cutscenes skippable for the Switch. To wrap it all up, Sunshine isn't a perfect game, but it's a very fun one. The atmosphere is amazing and the movement is addicting. I've recently 100%ed it, so I spent quite some time with all of these gameplay elements I've reviewed. So I think a 4 out of 5 shines is an honest rating. If you made it this far, consider subscribing. 90% of my viewers are not subscribed, and if you like this, you'll be sure to like the Mario Galaxy content in the near future. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.